Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're tackling something a lot of you can probably relate to: boosting your English speaking skills, especially if you're not in an environment where you get to use them all the time.
Yeah, it can be a real challenge. You know that feeling when you want to say something but just can't find the right words? Or you freeze up because you're worried about making mistakes.
Exactly. But here's the thing. You can totally make progress from home, even without being surrounded by English speakers all the time.
Absolutely. And we've got a ton of practical tips and strategies to share today that can help you speak more confidently and fluently, even faster than you might think.
Right. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how to create those immersive experiences right in your own living room. Because let's face it, not everyone can just pack their bags and move to an English-speaking country.
Exactly. So let's start with something that might seem a little counterintuitive at first: talking to yourself in English.
Wait, really? Like just having full-on conversations with myself?
Well, not necessarily full-blown conversations, but yeah, the idea is to actually vocalize your thoughts in English, even if you're alone.
I'm not sure I'm ready to start debating myself in English just yet, but I could see how it might be helpful.
Think about it like this. When you speak out loud, you're engaging multiple parts of your brain that are involved in language processing. It's like a mental workout for your English muscles.
So it's like a rehearsal for real-life conversations.
Yep, exactly. And research has shown that it can actually be super effective. You're activating the same neural pathways that you would if you were talking to someone else.
Okay, that makes sense. But honestly, the thought of talking to myself in English still feels a little awkward.
I get it. But trust me, it's worth pushing past the initial awkwardness. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just try incorporating it into your daily routine. You know, narrate what you're doing, think out loud as you're working on something.
Like a running commentary on my life. Okay, now I'm opening the fridge, looking for something to eat.
Exactly. It might feel a little silly at first, but it's a great way to get comfortable with the flow of English and just start thinking in the language more naturally.
I actually used to do something similar when I was learning to cook. I'd read the recipe out loud and then describe each step as I was doing it.
Perfect example. You are essentially immersing yourself in the language of cooking, and that's exactly what we're aiming for here. And the cool thing is, you can apply it to so many different areas of your life.
Right. Like I could even practice giving presentations in English, even if it's just to an empty room.
Exactly. The more you speak, the more confident and fluent you'll become. Okay, so we've talked about speaking. Now let's switch gears and talk about listening, because active listening is just as crucial for developing your speaking skills.
Makes sense. If you don't understand what people are saying, how can you respond, right?
Right. But it's not just about comprehension. Active listening helps you absorb all those subtle aspects of spoken English: the pronunciation, the rhythm, the intonation, all the stuff that makes English sound, well, English.
Like those little nuances that native speakers use without even thinking about it.
Exactly. Think of it like dissecting the music of the language. And you can train your ears to pick up on these nuances by immersing yourself in English audio content.
Like podcasts, audiobooks, movies, TV shows.
All of that. And if you really want to step up your listening game, try a technique called shadowing.
Shadowing, what's that?
It's basically mimicking what you hear. So as you're listening to something in English, try to repeat what the speaker is saying as closely as possible, matching their tone and rhythm.
So I'm basically becoming their vocal shadow.
Exactly. It's like having a built-in pronunciation coach right there with you.
Yeah.
It helps you internalize those subtle pronunciation patterns and get more comfortable with the flow of spoken English.
Okay, that sounds super interesting. Definitely going to try that out. Now, let's move on to something that might make some people a little uncomfortable.
I think I know where you're going with this: recording yourself speaking.
You got it. It can be a bit cringeworthy, but it's honestly one of the most powerful tools for improvement.
Totally agree. It's like holding up a mirror to your speaking habits. You might be surprised by what you hear.
Yeah, you suddenly realize you're using like and way too much.
Or that you tend to rush through certain words or mumble when you're not sure what to say. But the key is to not get discouraged. Just use it as a learning opportunity. Listen back to the recording, pinpoint the areas you want to work on, and then practice those specific things.
So it's all about turning that cringy self-awareness into concrete steps for improvement.
Exactly. And don't forget to track your progress. You'll be amazed at how much you can improve with regular recording and self-assessment. All right, so we've covered some solo practice techniques, but let's talk about something a little more interactive: language exchange apps.
Now, this is something I'm really excited about. It's like a win-win. You get to help someone learn your native language, and in exchange, you get to practice your English with a native speaker.
Exactly. It's a fantastic way to connect with people from all over the world, make new friends, and of course, boost your speaking confidence.
And there are so many great apps out there these days. Plus, they're designed for learners of all levels, so you don't have to feel intimidated if you're just starting out.
Yep. And many of them even have built-in features to help facilitate conversations, like prompts or conversation starters, so you don't have to worry about awkward silences. So, to sum it all up, what's the key takeaway from all of these strategies?
Well, it seems like it all comes down to consistent practice and finding creative ways to integrate English into your daily life, right?
Absolutely. It's about making English a habit, something you do naturally and regularly, rather than just something you study from a textbook.
Right. And not being afraid to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, whether it's talking to yourself in English or connecting with native speakers online.
Exactly. And with that in mind, here's a question I'd like to leave you with.
Hmm.
What's one small step you can take this week, based on what we've discussed, to move closer to your English speaking goals?
Remember, every little step, no matter how small, counts towards your progress. So don't be afraid to experiment, have fun, and keep practicing. And as always, we're here to support you every step of the way.